The Big 12 experience, trap games, and toughest scheduling spots for each team in the Big 12. Part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8 challenge. Sign up today using that promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 bonus in cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCESGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven sports props and picks over at Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That is the sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM today. And welcome, everybody, to the Big 12 College Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, Thursday afternoon, June the 13th, and we're talking Big 12 football as we get closer and closer to Labor Day weekend. Can't get here soon enough. First off, if you are wondering who you are listening to, I am Moneyline Mac, a.k.a. the former video coordinator for Bob Huggins and Frank Martin, and we're talking Big 12, so that means I am joined by a walking contradiction because he was born in Provo, Utah. He's got family names Iowa. He lives in Morgantown, West Virginia. Co-host of the Ryan and Rush show, Rambling Rush. Rush, what's up, man? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, man. I know we're talking football today, and I cannot wait for this football season to get started. As we talked about earlier this year, the weather was bad for a couple days. I'm like, ooh, this is football weather. But until then, Celtics are 1 win away. Our man Joe Mazzulla coaching, doing a great job there. And importantly, too, RIP to Jerry West. We did a tribute for him on the Ryan and Rush show. Thank you for everything that he's done for the game of basketball and the state of West Virginia. But hey, the show must go on, and love storyline football season.
Storylines indeed, man. And like I said, we're going to talk trap games on this. So there's plenty of trap games. I think our show, Colby's show, the college experience, when we forecast these games, I think we do a better job than anybody of kind of talking situational spots, teams coming off rest, the history of the matchup, potential look ahead spots, rather than giving you statistical yards per carry. I mean, you can do that. You can go find that information all you want, but I think we do a good job as anybody at pinpointing bad spots for teams, great spot for team coming off buys. But Rush, I know it's been a couple days since we did our non-conference games. Any other games that kind of popped in your head from that non-con? I know we gave it our top 5, so go check that out. But any other games as you were looking at this schedule?
The more I think about it, that Nebraska-Colorado game is actually, I know like Colorado's going to get a lot of hype. Everyone's going to be talk about Colorado. I think we do a good job on the show of, keeping that tame a little bit while it is fascinating storylines, everything going on there. There's 15 other teams and a lot of them are better than Colorado that deserve our time as well. But just looking at their first 3 games, I was thinking about it after we did that episode. We should have talked about that Nebraska game more. There's a chance Colorado might be 0-3 to start the non-con. That is a very real possibility. If not 1-2, I think it is more likely for them. And I know we'll do team by team here coming up, and you asked me about specific games, but just leftovers from that last episode. Do not be surprised if they're 0-3, at least 1-2 after those first 3 games.
Well, I would say they don't have a look ahead on the Colorado State line. But you just based off of that, your logic, you're absolutely right, because the first line is what? Colorado -7, -8. So they're favored, but definitely a losable game. They're a 7-point dog at Nebraska. They're scheduled to lose that game according to the odds. Obviously, teams pull upsets, but right there, scheduled 1-1. And then I would imagine the Colorado State game, they're going to be improved under Norvell. They almost beat them in Boulder last year.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? That game will be within 3 in the line, I think.
I mean, yeah, that game last year, you're talking a difference of you should be going for it on 2-point conversion at the end of the game. And that's something you learn this year coming up. Yeah, that's a field goal game, especially with it being at Colorado State.
Yeah, Super Bowl, and I forget what network it's on. I think it's on CBS primetime. Like this is
yeah,
for these G5 teams, man. We saw it over and over. Wyoming beat Texas Tech. Ohio beat a good Iowa State team. K-State lost to Tulane 2 years ago. The year they won the Big 12. Oklahoma State got their teeth kicked in by South Alabama. The Big 12 has not been good against a group of fives, especially when they got to hit the road.
No, they haven't been. It's something that we struggled with. And when you kind of look at these schedules coming up, including obviously this new college expansion and the conferences coming together and conference realignment at one time where you kind of thought you were making a non-con, maybe like someone may have the idea, oh, let's make a little bit of a tougher non-con. Our regular season won't be as bad. But then you switch conferences and now you're seeing like people with these schedules. I mean, we talked about Colorado's there. I mean, dude, Arizona's schedule is kind of nuts to start the season, especially Absolutely. That Kansas State game we keep talking about. That is a non-conference game that might save the loser of that so they make it. So, I mean, we'll get to it here soon, but that Arizona, Kansas State, then at Woo. Utah. Welcome to the Big 12, but you're also kind of staying in the Pac-12 games. It's
no doubt.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great dude. I can't wait. I'm so excited, and I'm a sicko too. You know me, man, because I was raised a BYU fan. I was raised on mid-major football. So like, what's that game? That Stanford TCU game. Like I can't wait for that game. I know everyone's like all excited about the primetime, this, that, Kansas State, Utah. Like I see like TCU at Stanford, and my eyes light up. I'm like,
oh, dude, I can't
like
wait.
That 10-15 Friday game. That is my DGen sicko. Tuck right in. Best game of the day. Let's go.
Let's go, baby. Yeah, man. I that was the main thing I took. I was just got more excited for football. That was my biggest takeaway. I was playing out who I was going to take in every game. But if you want to go get some more picks, go over to the college baseball experience with Noah Beanick, baby. He's live streaming each night on YouTube or available for download on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. The greatest show on the dirt. College World Series until the end of June. Omaha starts tomorrow. We're also brought to you by Circa. Announced they're giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes over at Circa Survivor and Millions. Send them today in Vegas. Play anywhere with footballcontestproxy.com. Promo code SGP to get $50 off. That's footballcontestproxy.com. Promo code SGP. Alrighty, Rush. Let's get into it. And let's lead it off. Let's go alphabetical order.
Somewhat alphabetical.
Yeah. So somewhat alphabetical order. Let's lead it off with the Arizona State Sun Devils. Their trap game, I would say, we already covered it on our non-con. It was at Texas State game. So that another G5 that they got to go to. That's their trap game because they're in the Big 12. They're going to be everybody's trap game. Like they're going to be predicted to be in the bottom 3, which, I mean, we'll talk about them in our preview, but they're a work in progress. What do you think? Do you agree with Texas State, and what do you think their toughest stretch is?
Arizona State, I think all of it's their toughest stretch. Yeah. But yes, I agree. I know we were kind of the main focus of this is more kind of because we addressed a lot of trap games on our non-con schedule, but if you were to pick the trap game, it would be at Texas State too, because you have Mississippi State the week before, and then you're at Lubbock after that. So you might be kind of itching to start the Big 12, and you go to Texas State and look out. When we transition to Arizona, I do have to pick up a little more on Arizona State, but yes, Arizona. We don't have to spend too much time on this one. Arizona State's going to be the trapper, not the trapped.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they're work in progress. Dillingham, year number 2. But yeah, that spot, if they were to somehow get Mississippi State in in Tempe, and then you got at Lubbock in your Big 12 opener, sandwiching a Thursday night spot in San Marcos. That's a tough spot for the Arizona State Sun Devils. So watch out for that Thursday, September 12th. Let's go over to the Arizona Wildcats, who have aspirations, and they have trap games on their schedule. Rush, you hinted at it. What's your trap game for these Wildcats?
We think of trap games, right? We usually think of a sandwich spot in between two teams. This is kind of my continuation of this Arizona State, I guess, a potential trapping type game. I could see Arizona. I mean, we've talked about it, at Kansas State, then at Utah. I mean, they're going to get up for those games. Texas Tech, maybe somewhere between that BYU, Colorado, West Virginia kind of. But the schedule is really top heavy for them. So
yeah,
it's kind of structured in a way where they have all these hard opponents, and then they kind of have all their easier type opponents. So my big trap game is actually Arizona State, is where maybe they're looking already at the Big 12 championship. They think, Arizona State's not doing a good one. I know it's rivalry, so they tend to, but we've seen it a lot, that rivalry Thanksgiving week where, hey, like you've been rolling all season. You're looking forward to the conference game. You're looking forward to the playoff, and Mr. Rival comes along and reminds you, hey, you're not on top of the world yet. So that's my big trap game for them. I think it's going to be Arizona State.
I like that one. I'll go just above that, and I'll go a home game. I'm gonna go Houston, Friday, November 15th. And I love taking coaches in their first year late in the first year, because I think they get better and better and they kind of turn into year two. So Willie Fritz takes over. I think they'll take their lumps there in September, early October, but I think they'll start playing better late in the year, and they have talent. I mean, they got good skill guys. They're explosive offensively, and this is a sandwich spot, like I like to talk about, at UCF, at TCU, and they're coming off a 3-game stretch against Colorado, West Virginia, and at UCF. So maybe a little look ahead with the Houston Cougars coming to Arizona. Toughest stretch is easy. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I think you bring up a great point. The only counterpoint I will add to that is, in that situation, you do have both guys are first-year head coaches, and they do have a bye before Houston. But I do like the idea. We are high on Fritz on this for a podcast. So the idea of him getting hot at that time, I do think lines up with what you're saying, and I do agree with you.
And Fritz is off a bye too, so they're both off a bye, and that's usually what happens when they play those Thursday Fridays. They're both off a bye, so Fritz off a bye, like you said. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The toughest stretch is easy at K-State, at Utah. I mean, good God, that's as tough a 2-game stretch as you'll find in America.
Yeah. And like we said, if you're going to lose one, you might as well lose to Kansas State. Doesn't hurt your conference record. And then you go beat Utah and prevent them from potentially making the Big 12. So those will be 2 great weeks in a row.
That flowed off your tongue too easy. Beat Utah.
The Utes. I've been hearing a lot of it.
Speaking of the Utes, let's go over to the rival, the Holy War, the BYU Cougars. Rush, this is your specialty team. Big year for Kalani Sitake. Give me your trap game and give me your stretch where you're like, oh, fuck.
Well, I think all of it's a no fuck. But we talked about it, that at Wyoming game, the Laramie game in between SMU and starting the Big 12 against Kansas State. That has trap written all over it. Dude, the Big 12 is just going to be so what we think pretty good this year. From a Big 12 trap standpoint, oh, man, this stretch is tough. I would maybe throw, and I don't know how much of a trap this really is, but maybe that at UCF, you're going Arizona, Oklahoma State at home, and then you have the Holy War right after that. I guess they are giving them a bye week before that, so maybe that's not a good example. Here's what I'll do. I'll do Kansas, right? You're at Utah for the Holy War. It's back. And then, you could get picked off by Kansas you're just so excited about that. Kansas comes to BYU, picks you off. Especially that was a great game last year, BYU, Kansas, a game BYU could have won, because then you have Arizona and Houston to finish off. So I'll say Kansas. The toughest stretch, though, is that, hell, it's all, at Wyoming, Kansas State, even at Baylor, Arizona, Oklahoma State, at UCF, at Utah. I mean, that whole middle chunk is just, the first 2 games and the last 2 games, but everywhere else it's going to be really tough for BYU.
That back-to-back at UCF and at Utah is brutal. I know they have a bye week in between, but just go. It's a long trip for BYU, and then you got to come back and you got to play in the Holy War against BYU fans. Utah is pretty damn good. So as much as annoying as their fans are, they got a good football team and they got a damn good coach and quarterback. So Wyoming's definitely the trap game. If I had to say the other trap game, I think it's got to be Wyoming, just because you got to be favored in a trap game too. And I don't know how many games BYU is going to be favored in Big 12 play, like you were alluding to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. I agree. It's like we talked about. I feel like the writing's starting to get on the wall for Satake. I would not be surprised at all if Jay Hill's the head coach next year. And I guess I'm a BYU fan. You know, it's the family school. I kind of want that. I do want that.
Yeah.
I think they'd be in better hands with that.
Well, I'll put you in a good mood and we'll move off BYU.
There we go.
Let's go to your team that broke your heart last year, the Baylor Bears. Russian
from
Baylor
the Mormons
Bears
to the Baptists.
to the Baptists. So they play 10 league games, everybody, because they play Utah in a non-conference game and a return game. They should have won the game in Waco last year.
Could have. Absolutely.
Trap spot is gotta be.
It's actually a kind of a distributed field for
BYU.
At Colorado, at Iowa State. They got BYU at home. Yeah, that's always a good game. What do they call it? The altercation. That'll I think BYU is a good trap spot. Let's see.
Because this will be a rare game that they're favored in too. And sometimes teams that usually aren't favored, when they get favored, they don't play well with the target on their back. So they're going to be coming off the Colorado opener, the shenanigans with Coach Prime, and then they got 2 road spots on deck.
Yeah, that's a good call. I like that.
Yeah, that's also their toughest stretch. At Colorado, Iowa State, and Texas Tech road spots 3 out of 4 weeks. Jesus Christ.
I will let, obviously this is a gambling audience. Baylor has never won in Morgantown. And I know they have a bye week between TCU and being at West Virginia. So whether you can call that a true trap spot or not, that's on you. But that at West Virginia game, after that kind of tough stretch, and they have TCU there, watch out for. I think that's a West Virginia win right there, as history will tell us.
Will Dave Aranda be coaching that game?
It's the question, because after that tough stretch
and off the bye, that's usually when you move on.
I'm gonna say no. I like that.
A bye week. Yeah,
I'm gonna say no. I would say Vegas odds. I bet that's 50-50. Well, I don't know if Vegas odds. Rush's odds. I would put that at 50-50.
Rambling Rush's odds. He's got his own algorithm, everybody.
Don't forget, I'm the contradiction. It's the most contradictory sports book you've ever seen. I either make a ton of money or lose a ton of money, and usually it's the latter.
Oh, man. Hey, if you want to make a ton of money, go over to Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8 is now live for the NBA Finals and NHL Stanley Cup. Create entries up to 8 picks. Underdog will automatically double flex your entry so you can miss up to 2 times, kind of like a little bit of round robin. Get over there, pick 8, and I don't have it above me, but you got to use the promo code if you want the best deals and best odds. TCE SGPN. Listen up, TCE SGPN. Sign up today using that code. Claim your special pick. First time deposit offer up to $250 and bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy promo code TCE SGPN. All righty, we are back on the Big 12 experience. I feel like we're getting all the bottom teams out of the way. I guess Arizona's in the top. But let's continue it on because we're going to Cincinnati next. They're not going to be doing a lot of trap games, or they're going to try and be doing the trapping, as we like to say. Rush, where are you looking here? In a big year for Scott Satterfield. I know it's only year number 2, but last year was abysmal for a proud program.
Yeah, I think we're really going to get the feel of Cincinnati. I know we've talked about them with their non-con, and how actually they did pretty well in the non-con last year. With that Pitt game, I feel like will tell us a lot. And then can they actually beat Miami of Ohio? Unlike
that was our trap game for them last year.
Yeah, so history tends to repeat itself with the Miami of Ohio, but I feel like what do we want to say here is I love that Arizona State Cincinnati game, October 19th. I mean, that's going to be, I guess, as close to a trap game for either one school. I guess which one doesn't want to be in the basement, but kind of like we're saying, I mean, Cincinnati doesn't have that true rival that like Arizona State does in Arizona, kind of to have that rivalry week at the end. I mean, it's just tough to give them a trap. I feel like it is just that Miami of Ohio game, even though we've, talked about it a good bit. They're just not going to be very good this year. They're doing the trapping.
Dude, that was probably our proudest pick of the year last year. Is that
33-1?
We picked them to beat Pitt on the road. And then we said, watch, Cincinnati's going to come back and fucking lose to fucking Miami of Ohio. They had like 600 yards of offense and still lost the game because Avery Jones kept turning it over in the red zone. And we hit our 33-1 with West Virginia beating Pitt.
That was great.
BYU beating Arkansas. And then, Miami of Ohio upsetting Cincinnati. That's got to be the one. But if we want to go somewhere else, I'll use the same logic as Baylor. Where they had the rare, I forget, who did we say they were playing and they actually were going to be favored at home? Cincinnati's going to be favored at home against Arizona State. How does Cincinnati react to laying points at home? So I think that could be a trap game where you come off that 3 out of 4 road spot and it's like, hey man, this is going to be an easy win against Arizona State. And what you don't know is they're saying the exact same thing. Hey, we can get Cincinnati because they suck like us. And then the road team goes in there and gets a win. So Arizona State, and also that's the toughest stretch as well. Probably. No, actually at Iowa State and at K-State in November in those elements, that's going to be cold as shit for Cincinnati. They're going to get killed.
I agree. Things aren't looking too bright. Things will get bright again for Cincinnati, but it's going to be the post-Satterfield era. It's just he's not the guy. We know his record. I don't even know why Cincinnati really hired him to begin with, but
fucking horrible hire.
He left Louisville and he made it to the ACC championship. So
yeah,
that sets it all right there
in one fucking year.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the team everybody wants to talk about. Colorado, Coach Prime. Boy, they got trap games all over the fucking map here.
They really do. Because everyone's going to want to have their number.
Everybody's going to want to fucking drill their ass. What do you think, man?
Oh, okay. I was talking all this shit about Cincinnati, and then here they come. They're against Kansas State, at Arizona, Cincinnati, and then bye week at Texas Tech. I take it all back. That trap game and Cincinnati being that's October 26th. They play Cincinnati. That would be the game that
Satterfield wins. He beats
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. That one feels good to me.
I don't even consider North Dakota State and Colorado State trap games. Those are pick 'em. I mean, not picks. Like they should beat North Dakota State, but it's not going to be easy. It's like they're favored by 7.5. So they should win, but it's not going to be a cakewalk, blow them out by 3 touchdowns.
Nope.
So, yeah, that's why I don't think that's a trap game. I'm with you. They'll be laying points against Cincinnati. We'll see how they respond coming off that Arizona game. And then they got to go to Lubbock. Whew.
Yeah.
At
least they get a bye.
Yeah. What do you think their toughest stretch is?
Dude, they have like 2 tough stretches. Like,
Nebraska,
they might have 3. Like they have that non-con, which I think is a lot tougher than people are going to want to give them credit. Then I'll say the at UCF through Arizona. And then, then they got Cincinnati, which could be a trap game, like we're saying. Then at Texas Tech, Utah, at Kansas, Oklahoma State. Jeez.
And that Cincinnati game is sandwiched in between both 3-game stretches that you're talking about. So that Cincinnati game really is a trap game.
It is. Even with the bye week on the back end, that's my biggest trap for them.
Oh, they're going 4-8, dude. They can be better, and they're going 4-8. It's not even just being a Coach Prime or Colorado hate. They're going 4-8. That fucking schedule's brutal. All right, let's go to the Cougs. Let's go to the Houston Cougars. Rush, what are you looking at here with the Cougs and the Willie Fritz era? We kind of talked about that they could be the trapper at the end of the year. What do you think?
I think that's fair. I think they have a tough non-con too for rebuilding and getting a new coach in here. And I think we both agree that UNLV game, I like UNLV. Rice, well, it's UNLV, then Oklahoma. They'll lose that one. And then that Rice game, I don't think is going to be necessarily too easy on them either. But so they're kind of in the similar Arizona State, Cincinnati realm that we keep talking about. However, we do think that they can become the trapper, get good later on in the season. I see for them probably that last game of the year, right? They start getting fire midway, keep going, get hot, but then at Provo to end the season, I'll do another last game of the season as a trap game. That's mine. Cougars versus Cougars. I know the Cougars will win. Which one? I think it'll be BYU.
Rise and shout. The Cougars are out. Shout out to the chat. Robert in the pod with J-Rod and Rush. You have a question from Robert. Does Houston go bowling?
No, but I think they could get to 5 wins. It's going to be tough, but I think they can. And that'll be considered a successful season.
Could this be like Matt Rule at Nebraska year 1 last year, where they finished 5-7, but you walk away going, that team got better from throughout the year, and there's momentum going into the year.
Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that and I think something people, and I know bowling, there's some revenue associated with it. We went to a bowl, but the advantage to not going bowling, kind of like with the Matt Rule situation you brought up and what we think Houston can be this year, is your season ends shorter, and that transfer portal starts right away. So you do have a little bit of an advantage there to kind of get ahead of the game a little bit. And sometimes maybe that little bit of an advantage, you don't go bowling, but then next season you get 7-8 wins, right? Because of that. So not necessarily the worst thing in the world to be rebuilding and not make a bowl. It does jump you ahead in terms of transfer portal.
Well, great points. And the pro to going bowling, it doesn't really apply anymore because it was always, you want to get your young guys, developmental guys, some more practices, game reps, but then everybody just hits the transfer portal. So
that too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's almost, I think you're right. I think it's better to go 5-7 than 6-6.
And have optimism, like be pushing towards something. Yeah. There's an argument there. I agree.
Agree. All right, let's go to one of our favorite programs. And this guy, when the expectations are low, this is when you want to back his ass, man. Matt Campbell and the Iowa State Cyclones, baby. Trap game, North Dakota, week 1. Just kidding. But they do have a history of those Dakotas and those Iowa teams, really Northern Iowa, North Dakota State. They've all beaten Iowa State over the years. Let's go trap game. What do you think, man?
I keep getting like a good one, then I realize there's a bye week on the end. So it's
Cincinnati again.
Cincinnati is a competitor. I was also going to go to UCF in between them being in Morgantown. The problem is they have a bye week after that UCF game, and then Texas Tech is coming to town. Dude, it might be Cincinnati again. Believe it or not, we did say they were gonna. If there was, they're the team.
Cincinnati has talent. That's the thing about Cincinnati.
They just get in the red zone and freak out.
Yeah. So we'll put Cincinnati just because we know how much Kansas and Iowa State hate each other. And then on deck you have Utah and K-State, and we think Iowa State's going to be in the thick of things to win the Big 12, and they're probably talking. And Utah and K-State are going to be there too. You're thinking, all right, man, we all we got to do is we'll beat Cincinnati, and then we'll beat Utah and K-State to end the year, and we'll win it. But if you don't beat Cincinnati, that's the trap game. I agree. That's when the trap game comes up, and toughest stretch is those last 2 games, man. Woo.
Last 2 games, I would say besides those last 2 games, they got a pretty well-rounded schedule. I will say it's not. Obviously they have Iowa, the Cyhawk, but Houston and Baylor, West Virginia will probably be their first big, Iowa, but their first Big 12 test being in Morgantown, and we've played them pretty well here, so that'll be a good game.
We'll when we break down each schedule, I think it's imperative that we talk about which teams have 5 home games versus 4. Team like Oklahoma State,
Yeah.
they weren't a top 2 team last year, but they got the schedule, and that's how they got to Dallas
Yep.
and played Texas. So, all righty, Iowa State Cyclones. Let's go over to Rock Chalk Jalen Daniels. So let's try and forecast if he's going to be healthy or not first.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
You were all over the Nevada game last year being a weird game. They almost
Yeah,
lost game.
I know. I'm like, dude, it was weird. I'm like, weird things happen in Reno. That was one of my good picks.
What do you think? At BYU late in November is a tricky spot for Kansas here.
Very tricky, dude. Even though
The
BYU was
Baylor
5-2 last year. Yeah. Baylor game. Yeah. It could get really. They don't have a bad schedule, though. Ooh. If there's a year for Jalen Daniels to be healthy, this is the year. Yeah, I would say weird things happen in Provo late in the season. The benefit that Kansas will get there, though, is as we said earlier in this episode, BYU will play Utah the week before. So, which is ridiculous that game's not being played the last game of the season, but another conversation for another time. So that's the advantage Kansas will have going into that. Maybe that Colorado game too, right after BYU, they kind of get, actually I do like BYU because Kansas, Iowa State, BYU. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that BYU's that trap game for Kansas.
I got another one for you. My page just blanked out. Houston, and it's the same logic as the other one.
Yeah.
They're both off a bye week. There's a first-year head coach getting his first bye. We like Fritz off the second bye later in the year. Why not off the first bye? And who do they have on deck? K-State.
And then,
and then Iowa State. So they have 2 of their bigger rivals on deck, and you got, sorry, Houston coming in. That's when these trap games happen. So, what do you think their hardest stretches? K-State and Iowa State back-to-back? Definitely.
I think
this is a good schedule.
Do they have a bye in between? Ooh, that's an interesting way with the buys because they have a bye between. So they have a bye, then they play Houston, then they play Kansas State, then they have another bye.
Yeah, I like.
So they have buys. Yeah, that's actually good timing. So I'm going to double down on that Houston being the trap game because you have a bye, then you have 2 games in another bye mid-season. Of those 2 games, obviously the Sunflower Showdown is going to be the biggest. So they could kind of sleepwalk, be a little rusty into that Houston-Kansas game. Houston might get them there. That's definitely the trap game for them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's go to my favorite program outside of West Virginia in the Big 12. K-State Wildcats, baby. At Tulane is going to be tough, but it is a revenge. I think they're going to ultimately get that done. Fritz isn't there anymore. But at West Virginia.
Colorado, yeah, because that's a rivalry there.
You have back-to-back road spots.
That is good timing because we have Iowa State before that. Yeah, I like that. Jeez, that actually does because our schedule's brutal, as we'll go over at the end here. But I like that. I like Kansas. Yeah, when they come here, that's a trap spot. I'll also say, let me look at the dates. I don't want to. Hey, I mean, Cincinnati might be in another good position here, playing them right before
Farmageddon for potentially the Big 12.
Could be. The winner of that, Kansas State, Iowa State, might be in the Big 12 championship because then you have Arizona kind of behind Arizona State, the game before coming off that. Yeah, I kind of like Cincinnati again in that track. I like it. West Virginia earlier and then Cincinnati, the second to last game of the season for Kansas State. I like it.
Agreed. And that the toughest stretch, easy, the month of October for them, including Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
The last weekend in September, then they got to go to Colorado. Tough place to play with elevation. Tough. And then they got to go to Morgantown. Tough elevation, tough road spot. And then you come home and you play your rival Kansas. So, yeah, this is if Kansas gets out or K-State gets out of October right there in the thick, then they'll be in a really good place to get to Dallas. So look forward to talking Kansas State. Let's go over to another one that I love, and it's because of our guy. Our guy, baby, where's he at? We got to get him on here. We haven't had him on here in a minute. Subscriber to the Big 12 College Experience, Coach Gundy. There he is, baby. Oh, man, he almost hit that 40-1 for us last year. They couldn't get it done against Texas because of those referees. Just kidding. They got their ass kicked. But seriously, fuck those refs for that first possession. So
Dude,
Tulsa's
a brutal schedule.
Yeah, well, it had to even out after last year's Cupcake
This is
City.
a top-heavy schedule. Oof.
Yeah, they're not getting back to Dallas.
No, they're not. They're not.
Fuck, I don't even know where to go for the trap game. This is brutal.
It is.
Basically, Gundy versus Primetime on Black Friday, already scheduled 12 o'clock Eastern, ABC. Already on the schedule. I love it. Black Friday, Gundy and Coach Prime.
Oh, right off I know what I'll be doing at that time.
Let's go. I'm fired up for that game already.
There we go. They're trying to do a what was that game last year? The Nebraska Iowa game. Wasn't that game? That was a great game. Man, it is top heavy. I mean, even their non-con, right? San Diego State, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then you start off with Utah. Man, a lot of these teams are having the Utah, Kansas State back-to-back. I don't know who signed up. And then
what did they do for that?
Then they got to go to Morgantown. Then they got to go to Morgantown. Jeez. And then they got
I'm going to say at BYU because you're going to play three of the most physical teams in a row. I know you'll have a bye week, but then you got to go Friday at Provo. So you're playing Utah at K-State, West Virginia. All teams that just want to run the ball right down your throat. And then you got to play at BYU. Fuck that. This schedule sucks.
So that late BYU, you said it's on a Friday.
Friday night, 10:15, baby. Friday night, 10:15.
BYU dominates in that spot. I'll agree with you. BYU is going to be the track game for Oklahoma State. And then that could set them right. Then they kind of finish out the rest, because then it's Baylor, Arizona State. We're both not really too high on TCU. Texas Tech will be interesting in Colorado. So yeah, I agree with you. Come out a little rusty against BYU Friday night. The Mormons are all fired up in Provo. I agree. That's the trap game for Oklahoma State.
The stretch we just talked about, those three teams in a row is a bitch. Utah,
terrible.
K-State, West Virginia. I mean, that's to start the fucking Big 12. I mean, that's 3 out of the top 5 teams right off the bat in September.
Well, and the you start with Utah. I mean, they're going to Stillwater, but then you have at Kansas State, oh no, we're going to them. So my bad. At least they got that home, but still, I mean, that's a brutal 3-game stretch. That is not a good one.
Yeah, we won't be on Oklahoma State to get back to Dallas. Love them still. They're still our team, but this you got to be fair here. All right, let's go to TCU.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Oklahoma State real quick before we get to TCU. They always seemed like kind of an every other year school. Like they'll be back next year. So
they'll go 8-4.
Yeah,
they'll go 8-4. Maybe 7-5 probably. That's what he does. 7-5, 10-2. 7-5, 10-2. Old Gundy.
There you go.
TCU, let's go to the Frogs. You know, they've had their number, but at SMU is a tricky spot for them because it's a sandwich spot in between 2 Big 12 games.
Great point. I feel like SMU's had their number too. Like eventually Sonny Dykes. I mean, he can only keep winning these Sonny Dykes bowl games so many times. He is due for a letdown. We're not very high on him this season either. So from that perspective, I agree with SMU being between the 2 Big 12 games. I will say, what is it? That look at that Baylor game. November.
And that's
2nd.
A rivalry too.
It is because then you have Texas Tech,
TCU.
Bowl? What?
Is that the Butt Bowl or is that
no
Baylor?
It's Baylor Texas Tech because it spells butt. B-U-T-T.
Oh yeah. Butt Bowl.
Yeah. That I forgot what the rivalry for TCU Baylor is. I think they just made a trophy for it too. But you have Texas Tech. Yeah, you have Texas Tech, and then I know Baylor's a little bit of rivalry. Then you're playing Oklahoma State, then Arizona. That Baylor game's a trap game for me.
The Blue Bonnet Bowl?
Yeah, that's right.
The Blue Bonnet Battle? Interesting.
Triple B.
Can they get a fucking better name than that?
I know. There's got to be some.
There's got to be some Texas thing. I mean, this is Fort Worth and Waco. They're close to each other, like I said, right off the highway. What do you think their hardest stretch was again? That Oklahoma State and Arizona, Texas Tech, Baylor stretch in November? And
Yeah,
Utah.
that's their hardest stretch. That Baylor game just screams trap to me. That's right. Utah's before Texas Tech too. Yeah, they got weird timing with their buys as well. I guess maybe before Utah's a benefit. There you go, an old Mountain West showdown. But dude, I'm not really hot. Like a lot of people think TCU is going to bounce back this year. Maybe they do. Like we do like Sonny Dykes. I loved what he did when he got him in the national championship. I'm not very high on him this year. I think there's some dysfunction. I think there's something behind the scenes going on there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving more into that. We'll get the Lupton boys back on the pod as well to talk some frogs. Speaking of our friends, the Gambling Gauchos, let's go talk Texas Tech Red Raiders. Dude, they're getting hype again. They're getting hype again. I'm starting to see. I don't understand. They love Joey McGuire. Joey McGuire, Jerry Maguire. Jerry Maguire's a movie.
No, Jerry Maguire's a movie. Joey Maguire's the coach. Yeah.
They got a good schedule though, I think.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
5 home games in Lubbock, which is good for them. Trap spot. I would say Baylor at home. Aranda. Yeah, the Butt Bowl. The Butt Bowl, because you're coming off Arizona on the road, then you got to go to TCU, and TCU and Texas Tech don't like each other either. Aranda, Baylor beat Texas Tech last year, correct?
Oh, I remember that game. I remember watching it. Who won that game? Are you sure Baylor might have won?
I think Baylor. It was one of Baylor's like rare wins.
Yeah, because that was a weird game. Baylor.
My shit's loading. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Texas Tech killed them. That's right. It was 39-40. Yeah, that's when Baylor. That was the game where we're like, oh, we know who Baylor is.
So you're right. So they've killed them. Yeah. They've killed them back. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Baylor beat the absolute shit out of Texas Tech.
Because that's right. Last year, because they were both going into that game. What were they, 2-3? So the question of that game last year was, who's gonna figure it out and who's gonna sink? And then that's they killed them 39. That's right, 14. And then we're like, oh, Baylor's not that good.
Because it's Aranda versus his former coordinator.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway, back to what we were talking about. I say Baylor, the Butt Bowl.
I'm gonna take it a week further. I do think because they have that bye before the Butt Bowl, even though they have Arizona before that, I think the bye maybe rests them up a little bit. I'm going to say the TCU game because I think they have Arizona and then they have a week and they're going to put all that focus obviously on Baylor. And then they're going to be like, oh, we got to go to Ames, a week later. And so I think it's actually going to be that TCU game for them is their trap game.
I like it. And that Texas Tech, all three of those schools, those games are always awesome. Tech, TCU, and Baylor. Those games always, I know I was just talking about like Baylor and Tech have blown each other out in the last couple of years, but traditionally those three always come right down to the wire. And Robert in the chat, will the couches be burning when West Virginia beats Penn State week 1? Absolutely.
I got a couch ready to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be on my driveway.
Let's fucking go. But hey, first we got to talk some other teams. We'll get to West Virginia. They are last on the alphabetical order, number 1 in our hearts. Let's go to the UCF very, very golden shiny Knights. Rush, what are you looking at here? Well, I'm restarting my browser, so yes.
No, you're good.
Because it's not there. All right, I got it up now. Go ahead.
Well, the problem is now that you have 16 teams in the Big 12, you're trying to manage 16 tabs, and they all like to close together. You have all your notes before the show, but of course, everything shuts down right before. UCF, I'm really curious how they're going to be this season. I know we'll preview all these teams and stuff. KJ Jefferson, I think, is going to be really fascinating as a quarterback with Gus there. I think this is a big season for them coming up to see if they can solidify their place in the Big 12 or if it's going to be kind of similar to last year. I think Cincinnati might be poking their head out again here
Dude,
because they got Florida. Yeah, they got Florida, then Cincinnati, then they're at Iowa State. So yeah, Cincinnati might be playing solid spoiler this year. I mean, with all their trap games, heck, they might
That's what
end up
happens when
figuring
you
it
suck.
out. I'll give you another one. There is the secondary one because of the bye week, but they play Arizona, and then here actually this still lines up quite well. Because even after that, right, they have Iowa State next week. They're play BYU, then they play Arizona, and then I could see this Arizona State game being a trap because then they have a bye after that, and then they play West Virginia again, then Utah. So here we go. We're talking about the trappers. I think Cincinnati and Arizona State line up well to pick off UCF. I think one of those teams will beat UCF.
You stole it right from me. Those are the two spots, and the toughest schedule spots. That West Virginia Utah to end is tough. That's tough. They already got this on the books too, man. Utah at UCF the Black Friday, 8:00 prime time on Fox. So you can already see Yormark kind of taking that Black Friday, get the Big 12. That's when you do your best numbers is during the holidays. So absolutely.
Well, what's smart about that game too is obviously UCF being in Orlando. A lot of people for Utah will go out. They love Disney out, and they'll go out to Disney and use it for Thanksgiving vacation and stuff. So kind of scheduling those more further away cold weather teams to play in Orlando that time of year is very, very good scheduling, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, man. I can't wait. All right. Second to last, we talked about trap spot. Shit, this might be Utah's trap spot. Utah, the Utah Utes, they're going to come in and run this league. Yeah, at UCF is a trap. Last sun, you go from cold Utah to the bounce house. Dude, don't be surprised if UCF's in the hunt and has a chance, Big 12 title.
Kind of the dark horse team?
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about them last year. Maybe it's the year after. And maybe UCF and Utah in that last week. I think Utah having to go to UCF is a brutal spot.
I think that's a good point. We got in the pod with J-Rod here. Thanks for joining the show, brother. Big Arkansas guy. KJ Jefferson ability to run the ball can be a difference for Gus. Yes, the only hang up I have on KJ is once in a while, I'm not saying it's the full out yips, is he does kind of get a little struggles with passing the ball, whether, he misses a receiver or something and then overly relies on the run, and then you can plan for that. So that's my one drawback with KJ, but I do agree in that spot against UCF. That's going to be a tough place for Utah. Here's another one. I don't even think we talked about this game as much as we probably should have with the non-conference, Ryan, because they have that September 7th against Baylor, which is the non-con. Then they got to go to Logan and play Utah State. And then they got to go to Stillwater. That Utah State. And then Arizona right after the week. Oh, this is actually a very tough schedule for Utah to open it up. Because then you got
Friday night in Tempe.
I'll say another one too, the pre-Holy War game against Houston. As we predict, Houston might be getting it going around that time. Utah might be looking ahead to BYU, and Houston could pick off Utah there October 26th. I guess there is a bye before BYU, but those bye weeks can get a little tricky at times. Sometimes you're not even looking forward to the next game. You're looking forward to the bye week and that rest. So it's tough schedule for Utah. They welcome to the Big 12. Don't let the door hit you on the way out when you try to call the Big 10 and they don't answer.
Wait, no doubt. No doubt. Be grateful that you're in this fucking good league, you fucking jackass.
They're just pissed that BYU beat them to it. It's like they beat them to the BYU to the Pac-12, and they've never let BYU fans forget that. Now BYU has some ammo, and they're like, "Well, we're too good for this league." Why aren't other leagues calling you or picking up the phone?
And I hate to break it to them, K-State and Oklahoma State are just as good at programs as them. We laid out Gundy's track record versus Wittingham's. Whittingham's, don't get me wrong, Whittingham's a fucking hell of a coach. Gundy has the identical same record. So you're not just going to come in and fucking roll over everybody in this league. So you're in for a little bit of a humble pie if you think you're just going to come in and dominate from day one. It's going to be a competitive league like it is. Utah may end up winning, but it's going to be hard earned. They're not going to
grind
blow through everybody like they think they're going to.
No, it's not going to be a Pac-12 where you have the number
Pac-12.
one quarterback crying in the stands with the newspaper. You could have, obviously you make the argument there's a lot more talent in the Pac-12 or what was the Pac-12, but there's no league that grinds it out like the Big 12 where everyone just beats up on each other. That's something Utah's never seen before. So they're going to have to earn it.
They will. And back to in the pod with J-Rod, he's hoping that he gets a Arkansas UCF bowl game. That would be interesting. I love headlines like that.
When you have former players playing. Yeah. And I will say the bowl committees actually have done a really good job of putting together storylines versus we need to have the third team in the SEC play the second team in the ACC. Like they have gotten away for that more. So that would be a great bowl game. I'd love that.
All right, let's go to the future Big 12 champs. Let's go to Morgantown, baby. Let's go Mountaineers.
I don't see a trap game on the schedule.
Nah, I'm gonna run through them all. Trap game. I know where the trap game. Fucking at Cincinnati, off the bye week.
Yeah.
Remember at Houston last year when they played Dana? That was off the bye week. You're coming off the Arizona. You're coming off your hardest stretch. Kansas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, K-State, Arizona, 5 weeks in a row. You breathe a little bit, then you got Cincinnati. That's the trap game, in my opinion.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, dude. It's besides the Albany game, week 2. I mean, Penn State, Pitt, and then you go Kansas, OK State, Iowa State, Kansas State, Arizona. Jeez, this
is the hardest schedule in the country?
I think it is. I really do. I guess the advantage is you don't have a back-to-back between Kansas State and Utah, but you do with Arizona. Jeez, it's ugly, man. At least you got a bye week between Iowa State and Kansas State. We talked about Kansas, us being a trap game for Kansas State there, so it might work out well. But going to Stillwater, this is hard, man. Hard schedule. But I agree with the trap game there. Maybe even Baylor. Maybe they come off that bye and do well in Cincinnati, but Baylor's like, it's our time to be due to win in Morgantown. I would say that Cincinnati or Baylor game could qualify as a trap game for West Virginia.
Yeah, and I know we bash Pitt and we're gonna beat their ass, but dude, that's still a fucking road fucking Power 5 team, and Pitt's that's gonna be Pitt's Super Bowl too. It's West Virginia and Pitt Super Bowl that game, so you're gonna get the best effort from both teams. And you get Penn State to start the year.
Yeah.
If there's a harder schedule, that maybe Colorado, we talked about. Colorado's pretty fucking. I think this is tough because you have a top 10 team in the first week.
Yeah. This is a very hard schedule.
Look at the road spots.
I don't
Stillwater,
want to.
hard place to win. Arizona, they're going to be enthusiastic about being in the Big 12, and they got momentum with Fifita. And then you got to go to Lubbock too. God damn. So
the good news is we do have the 5. We did well last year with being on the road, so we do have the 5 home games this year. And one of them being away is at Cincinnati, which there'll be a good representation of West Virginia here. I will say I haven't made this point yet. I almost brought it up with Texas Tech, but since we're on West Virginia and it's the last spot, I could see, as we've talked about, a lot of expectations for Texas Tech into this season. For whatever reason, Warren gets hurt. They do not fill these expectations, and they're just kind of done by the last game of the season, that post-Thanksgiving. And we are not getting the Texas Tech team that was originally kind of thought they were going to be. Kind of like the way Texas Tech played Texas last year, that last game of the season there. So I think when you look at a football schedule, you may see right away on paper like, oh, we got to go to Lubbock to end the season. It may not be the Lubbock we think it is as of right now. So that's what the hope I'm holding on to with our away schedule. But dude, even our home schedule, man, I wouldn't trade that.
Let me play devil's advocate. Would you prefer them to be down or up? Because the most West Virginia thing is if they are down, they're on a backup or third string quarterback like they were 2 years ago, and they fucked us up. I almost wish that they're kind of solid.
Yeah, you don't. As a West Virginia fan, everything's a little backwards here. You kind of don't like, you want to be the underdog. You want to go against the
Yeah.
hard teams. You want to have your back against the wall because that 1 second that you have expectations and are expected to do well, there goes that. It was fun while that lasted. That's what scares me about, I guess we're just rambling at West Virginia at this point. Is when, we have momentum going into this year. You see the schedule and then Vegas come out with 6.5 wins. It's like, oh no. It's like, oh, I've seen this before. Come on, Neal Brown, figure it out.
Well, and Robert makes a good point. Albany went to the Final Four of the FCS, so like that's kind of a trap game in a way. Now we should win.
Yeah.
We'll be favored by probably 14-17, I would imagine, but it's not like you're playing fucking Duquesne.
I have a would you rather real quick for you, Ryan. Would you rather like lose to Penn State or lose to Pitt, or would you rather beat those schools, but it means you have to lose to Albany?
Oh, I definitely lose to Albany.
Lose to Albany to beat Penn State and Pitt?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Let Albany have their App State moment. Give me the Penn State and Pitt win.
Yeah.
Because I do
that would
think
be so West Virginia too. Oh my gosh, that's gonna happen, isn't it?
Yeah, or if we beat Penn State, God forbid if we lost.
Yeah, don't even say it.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. But like it's 2-1 is from an odd standpoint is what they're gonna go. But we'll pick 3-0. But yeah, dude, I can't wait. Fired up to preview all 16 teams. We'll be doing that here in a couple weeks, kicking off that series. The perfect transition, Rush. We just talked about West Virginia. Come join the Ryan and Rush show tomorrow. We're going to talk some conference expansion in regards to West Virginia with rivalries and maybe some other Big 12 rivalries that we'd like to see. Rush, anything else you want to add to that? I know we've got a bunch of stuff going on.
No, just hey, this is actually, I think, my favorite time of the year to podcast. I know, like with football, you're doing reactions, like you're in the thick of things, so that's a lot of fun too. But like, this is like the clean slate season. Like everyone has a chance to win it all. The hypothetical, the storyline. So like, it's fun. We appreciate everyone for joining, of course. So hey, if you want to reach out to me at Rambling Rush on the X and throw out some hypotheticals, maybe we'll do it on the show or go back and forth on Twitter or something. Man, I love hearing them all. This is a fun time of year.
It really is. As much as I do love the games, I almost like conference preview better. And speaking of that, go check out Colby. He's doing all 134 teams, an hour dedicated to all these teams in this country. Nobody else is doing that. I can guarantee you that.
No one's that crazy.
No, we're only doing an hour dedicated to all 16 teams. But yeah, go check out all the platforms. Go check out the college basketball experience. We kicked off our coaches tour, summer coaches tour. We got another one releasing here in a couple hours. Rick Cabrera from Northwestern State. Go check out the college baseball experience because Omaha starts tomorrow night, baby. Can't wait for that. And Noah Fifita's doing a great job over there. He's at Rambling Rush. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said Noah's doing a fantastic job. Close us out, Ryan. Take us home, baby.
Yeah, and he's on the Sirius XM later. So.
Yeah.
Check out Noah Fifita. Go check out the LeBaron. He is at Rambling Rush. I'm at Moneyline_Mac. We are the Big 12 College Experience. Troy will be back next week, and we are out of here.
Troy's doing the Lord's work, saving golf courses with the sprinkler system.